educator, I've spent a lot of time talking about sex. I have. And I've heard just about it all. And so when I tell people what I do, oftentimes their first question to me is, what's the craziest thing you've ever been asked? Or what's the most shocking thing a student has said? And I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've been shocked. So I don't typically have a crazy story to tell them or a shocking question I was asked. And in fact, what I often tell people is that it's not one shocking question or story that I hear from my students. No, what continues to shock me and catch me off guard continuously is the fact that age-old, archaic, heteronormative myths continue to persist today. And for no reason, absolutely no reason. We live in a time where there is just too much information available that we still hear these things among our young people, among adults, among elderly, because listen, y'all, STI rates are going up among elderly. So everyone is having sex, and everyone needs to talk about it. So there's one myth in particular that I really want us to talk about today. This myth, I would like to share with you guys how I first heard about it. I was a high school student, was not sexually active, and a close friend of mine came to me one day and said, "Veronica." And I said, "What?" And she said, "I just wanted you to know that the first time you have sex, it's going to hurt. Yeah, it's going to hurt. And in fact, sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it doesn't. You kind of get used to it. Oh, and you should also know you're not going to orgasm every single time. I just want you to know that because no one told me, and I watch a lot of movies, and in all the movies, everybody's orgasming everywhere." And I remember after that conversation thinking, oh, okay. And in that moment, I created an equation in my mind for what sex is. And it looked a little something like this. Remember, this is high school Veronica, not sexually active, didn't really get good sex ed. And so it was kind of something like pain times sometimes to the power of, but you get used to it, plus orgasm multiplied by not always, all multiplied by blow his mind. Because remember, my friend said she saw a lot of orgasms in movies, but wasn't having them herself. And I, couldn't leave the grocery store with my mom without seeing a magazine on the checkout stand that said, "Top 10 ways to blow his mind in bed," or 5 ways to be unforgettable in bed, or even be his last first time. And so I thought, oh, okay, this must be sex. Pain sometimes, orgasm not always, but you have to blow his mind. I don't know. And so I went and did what any teenage girl did. I talked to my friends, right? Because your friends know everything. And I quickly learned that I had just become inducted into a group that it seemed was exclusive to people with vaginas. Yeah, it seemed that all people with vaginas my age knew that apparently the default experience for your first sexual encounter was pain. It seemed like this idea had been passed down repetitively, from girl to girl, from vagina to vagina. And I didn't really understand why. And so I actually completely forgot about this myth. This did not align with my own experiences, and so it really just left my head until over 10 years later, I was working as a sex educator. And it's Anatomy Day, and it's Vagina Day, yay! And so we're talking about vaginas. So I have my diagram up, and we're labeling the vaginas and saying all the important words because we need to say vagina and vulva. And we're going through the sexual response cycle, and I tell them, as someone gets aroused, the vagina naturally lubricates to reduce friction. And I say, listen, y'all, vaginas do what they want to do. They lubricate a lot, they lubricate a little, they lubricate in the middle, let them do what they do, but lube is your friend. It reduces friction, it minimizes pain. Sex should not be a painful experience. And to be clear, I'm talking about consensual sex, because anything otherwise is not sex. And in that moment, my students, the only thing they could focus on was that sex shouldn't be painful. They were shocked of all the shocking things I could have said. That is what shocked them. And I'm looking into my class, and it's mostly people with vaginas, and I realized that sex is one of the most humanistic experiences we will all have. And I had a classroom full of humans, and the vast majority of their experience was pain. And what I realized is that we aren't actually talking about sex. We're not. Because if we were, these conversations wouldn't be necessary if we were actually, truly talking about sex. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. You might be sitting there thinking, well, I heard the same thing, but girl, that's because of the hymen, obviously. Science tells us otherwise, right? This is, again, one of these archaic myths that we have got to let go of, right? So science has, or we previously been led to believe that sex has to be painful the first time you have it, particularly for people with vaginas, because the hymen is there and it's a barrier. It's not, right? So the hymen is so many things but a barrier that covers the entire vaginal opening. It can dissolve on its own. It's flexible. Some people have them, some people don't. They don't cover the whole vaginal opening. Vaginas aren't barriers that are meant to be thrown through. They're not walls that are meant to be torn down. They're not barricades that are in the way. We have got to let this go. Author hand blank of the book Virgin, the Untouched Story, or Untouched History rather, tells us this. The truth is that research has not told us with any particular specificity why it is that this discomfort happens, or why it happens for some women, regardless of hymen type, and not others. And so my question to you all is, with this myth and all the many others that are still out there, what have we internalized? What have we internalized that we are unable to centralize our pleasure during one of the most humanistic experiences we actually all will collectively share? Hymens aside, like literally all, hymens aside. Diagnosable issues such as vaginismus aside and lack of lubrication aside, what have we internalized to the point where we're in the moment and we're ready for the pain, we're bracing for the pain, we're here, we've heard about it, we know it's coming, and we can't and we won't sexualize our pleasure? What have we done? What have we done not only to people with vaginas and what they should vocalize or not vocalize, but to people with penises and in their role in this sexual experience and centering our partner's pleasures? The thing is, the more we know, the more we actually don't know. So here's a story on that. When I was training to be a sex educator, I read all of the health behavior models. I memorized all of the data. I had all the research. I was ready. One such model is the health belief model. And so it tells us that there's various constructs that we can use to predict someone's health behavior. Your perceived susceptibility, your perceived severity impacts the action you have on health. Or even the social ecological model. This says that the individual's health behavior is influenced by the entirety of their environment on multiple levels. And this is good, and this is great. But after I read all my research, I memorized all the things, right? I was ready. I was gonna go out into the world and be a sex educator. The one thing that we were not doing was having open and honest conversations. Honest conversations around sex and our pleasure lead to our liberation. We can't be liberated without having true dialogue about our needs, our wants, our desires, what we're feeling. Honest conversations get rid of those myths. They get rid of the falsities. They help us unpack what we didn't realize we've internalized. Honest conversations help liberate us from pain. whatever that pain may be. Whether you've internalized things emotionally, psychologically around sex, reproduction, your pleasure that you were not even aware of. Conversations liberate us from pain. Conversations keep us safer. You know, oftentimes people ask me, well, what's a good age to talk to my child about sex? I say, how old is your child? And they'll say, 3, that's the age. Whatever age they are, that is when you start. These conversations shouldn't be a one-time, we're gonna sit down as the sex talk day, because we've been developing our entire lives. These conversations keep us safe. We tell our young children, your body belongs to you. And you don't have to hug anybody you don't want to. I don't care if they're family. Your body belongs to you. And at the same time, everybody else's body belongs to them. And so you respect their body. You respect their boundaries. You ask them if it's okay to put your hands on them. These conversations, they keep us safe. Honest conversations centralize our pleasure. We have to be able to have open dialogue with our partner or our partners on what we want, what we don't want, what we need, how we're feeling in the moment, how we're feeling after. And of course, we have to have honest conversations because sex is a basic human experience. It's probably one of the few experiences that the vast majority of humans will share. And yet we don't talk about it. Why? Why not? And so here's the thing. Today is your day. Today is the day you're going to make the switch. Talk to one new person. Talk to 2. Put it on Twitter. It's all you. It's all about consent. Whatever you consent to your conversations, it is up to you. But you can't say you didn't know anymore. And you can't say you weren't aware. Thank you.